Brought to you by Hug House Productions.
Hi, hello, listener of Never Morphed. If you like this show, I am convinced you are going to love The Newest Olympian by Mike Schubert. Why am I so certain? Because that's one of the shows that inspired this show. Real ones who listen to the credits already know. Each week, Mike dives into the Percy Jackson series, which I love, joined by guests who are longtime fans of the Rick Riordan series. If you haven't read these books yet, this is the perfect way to get started and read along with Mike. They're so good. And like Animorphs, they're kids' books that touch on way more serious topics than you might expect. And they're about worldwide mythologies, starting with Greek and Roman. I know you gays love mythology. If you have already read the books and know how good they are, you'll love this series too. The dramatic irony, man. And if you know about the books from the Disney Plus series, Mike has done interviews and conversations with some of the cast of the show on The Newest Olympian too. Mike is a great host, a great editor, and obviously a huge inspiration for me. You can find The Newest Olympian in the show notes or wherever you get your podcasts. Go subscribe right now and enjoy.
Brought to you by Hug House Productions.
It's Never Morphed. Hi. I think I can drop the introduction at this point, yeah? No babies, bad words. In this episode, we finish up Book 7 with Cat Blackard, voice of Verge on Midnight Burger, the creator of Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program, and co-host of Mother, She Wrote, a podcast all about Earthbound. Find her links in the show notes. And you might be thinking, what is Will going to do at the Megamorphs book, starting with Animorphs book 7.5? The answer is I'll be doing those episodes after all 54 of the main books, unless you go support us on Patreon, where you can get that episode like right now and hear my conversation with my sweet husband, Zach. Patreon.com/HugHousePods. Now let's get down to what this Ellimist actually has going on, I guess. So as we are barreling into the end of this book, we have a few more twists and turns until we put this all together and figure this weirdness out. And the weirdness gets emphasized in chapter 12. Oh, because at the end of chapter 21, they vote yes. They're like, okay, Ellimist, yes, we'll take you up on it. And nothing fucking happens.
Incredible.
I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that. So chapter 22, it's the next day and they're at school, I guess. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened still.
Can you imagine what that would feel like?
No. Full on no. I think that this goes back to like grief and things being weird, but then the world goes on. Like, yeah, I guess we go to school tomorrow. I guess. Sure. At school, they are in the classroom with probably the skeletonized teacher, who is doing one of my very favorite tropes here in like any media for teens or tweens. A teacher is always teaching some kind of lesson plan that has conveniently relevant themes to whatever is happening in the plot. I love it. They're talking about like, if the United States intervened earlier in World War II, would World War II have been less horrific? And I am not going to unpack that on this podcast.
We don't have time for that.
We have time for that. And the teacher is like, but we can't really look back and relitigate history. And Cassie raises her hand and is like, why not? Why not? Can we not relitigate history? Why not? Can we say it would have been better? And the teacher glitches the fuck out. And I'm going to read this passage. And then the oddest thing happened. Miss Paloma looked right at me, right into my eyes. Much more complicated than that, she said. A single butterfly. A single butterfly. A single butterfly. Which, of course, is, you know, they are having this discussion of the butterfly effect. It's a reference to A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury, which is like one of the great classics of sci-fi short fiction. And I would argue one of the like the great pieces of sci-fi that you get introduced to super early, whether that is through reading the short story in an English class or like cultural zeitgeist, you just absorb the information of what the butterfly theory is, or if you're me, a Simpsons Halloween episode. And at the moment, I was like, what the fuck is happening? That's so weird.
Did the teacher glitch because the Ellimist made the living, thinking, autonomous teacher glitch, or are they still in a simulation?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would argue that this is the Ellimist, but the Ellimist can't directly interfere. But is this direct interference? I don't know. It didn't.
I don't think the book's actually asking that question. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I'm like, I got so deep in thought. I was like, I gotta piece this out. No, I think looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was the Ellimist fucking around. And at this point, after class, Cassie and Rachel are like, okay, so that was fucking weird. And they latch on to this idea that the Ellimist didn't actually want them to say yes. When he was talking, he definitely, in his words, tried to convey that they should say yes. But Cassie and Rachel think that there is something else going on here that they are not putting together, that they are getting clues from this Ellimist. And then Rachel, in chapter 23, has a dream. And her dream is like a bunch of like circling images. This is not, well, I was gonna say that this is not one of the like prophetic dreams that like Cassie had to go find Axe, but I don't know if it's not one of those. And I don't know if it's not the Ellimist being like, hello, or if it's just Rachel processing. Who's to say? So there's a ton of things that are like in and out of the dream that she's thinking of. So first, she starts thinking about the Kandrona, that the focus of their mission is not the Yeerk pool. It has always been the Kandrona. She thinks about how the Kandrona, Axe has said, is like a religion for the Yeerks, and they need the Kandrona specifically to survive. Not the Yeerk pool. The Yeerk pool is nothing without the Kandrona. Then she thinks about the drop shaft, and she thinks about how she hadn't noticed it until the Ellimist showed up. And at that point, the drop shaft was in her vision and she could see it and she noticed it. And she would not have had the Ellimist not shown up where he had when he had. In the dream, she is following a light somewhere. She wakes up and she says that she knows where the Kandrona is. She is like a little upset. She really doesn't want to tell the others because she doesn't want to change her mind again. They've already made a decision and they can't take it back, she thinks, at this point. But she
love
thinks
the insecurity of that.
Yeah. But she thinks that she knows where it is. She leaves a note for her mom that she went on a run and to go to Cassie's. She picks up Tobias, heads off, and they all go to Cassie's barn because she is ready to fucking go. Did you put this all together at this point in this dream? I didn't.
I mean, maybe it's because I read it before, but I didn't remember anything. When like the tower that Rachel's eye was being drawn to with the Yeerk pool, I was like, oh, the Kandrona's in the tower.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense.
So it feels like that's the one, like that's a logical step there. It's a pretty big glaring thing. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely didn't put it together until Rachel spelled it all out. I was so distracted by everything happening in this book that when it was laid out, I was like, oh, duh. So yeah, she puts together, while they're at the barn, The Ellimist this whole time has been speaking to them in words, but meanwhile, showing them what they need to get out of this plan and do the damage that they need to do. He has been sent here on, like we said, some sort of like diplomatic mission to try to like give them this out that he is politically allowed and supposed to give. But meanwhile, he has been doing everything in his power to show them clues and to make them notice things that are going to let them survive and keep working towards their goal and not necessarily just like straight up die forever. So he has shown them the drop shaft, he's shown them the EGS tower, and that's how they know they have to go there and they have to destroy the Kandrona, which is what they were looking for at the very start of the book. So here's my problem. So I still hate the Ellimist.
Yes.
I think that this is the best. I think again, I think that his intentions were good, and I think that this is not a terrible plan. However, I think it is so self-absorbed, if that's a thing to even consider here, because I don't know if they have a sense of self. It's so audacious and disrespectful that the Ellimist, with all of this knowledge and all of this power, can only think to rebel in this very specific way when the people he's talking to are children up against one of what seems to be the most powerful, deadly, genocidal alien races in the universe. This is the best the Ellimist can do when my babies are out here fighting a war for all of humanity and they're the only ones they have. The best you can do is just kind of showing some clues and hoping they'll get it and poking and prodding where you can. No, stage a fucking uprising. I hate you. I'm so mad. I am sure that there are big political powers at play here, but this is insufficient activism for me.
Yeah. It is messed up. I don't know if it will ever be okay. It might just have to be, that's the conceit of the book, so that's the story that made sense. But I don't, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. I don't remember if I know.
Sure.
Or maybe I never knew to begin with.
And to be clear, I think this is tremendous writing. I think that this is so believable that, like, of course something with this much power and this much knowledge thinks that this is the best they can do. Like, I do think that a certain amount of power, I mean, again, not to like get too into it, but like, I think that we can look at the United States and like, we are so unwilling to give up even just like a shred of comfort if it means an occupied territory not being put in a genocide. But like, it feels very much like that to me. And I think, again, I think that that's great writing.
And I hope something really, really cool is done with them. I can, like, without even like remotely spoiling anything, I can say, like, I know that when the Ellimist Chronicles that came out, I was like, what the fuck? Like, what, really? Like,
yeah.
Really? A standalone book about this? And I'm guessing it becomes actually quite important, but I don't know, like, I don't know why. Like, at the point that I dropped out, like, that had not been validated to me yet. So at first I was like, what the fuck? And then, you know, decades have passed and I've been like, oh, what's in there?
Yep. I can't wait to get to it. I can't wait. I don't think it's going to change my mind at all, but I'm like so stoked to read it. And I really like, having this political and like moral opposition to a character who I think is like written as positively and lovingly you could write this kind of character. And it's also, not gonna lie, pretty satisfying to have beef with this fictional character. Like, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've beefed with a fictional character. I don't typically like feel that kind of way about a character, you know, like they are very much like things on a page for me. I don't really like bring them out of that page. This guy, I'll beat the shit out of him.
He's antagonizing you.
Yeah. He's picking a fight and I will take it. Will I lose? Yes, immediately. He will turn me into disparate atoms. I don't give a shit. Win-win. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, you're such a Rachel.
I know. I said last night to my partner when we were talking about this that I am such a Marco Sun, Rachel Moon, Marco Rising. Like,
oh my, that is one of the most incredible sentences I've ever heard. What the fuck, Will?
I'm so Marco coded, but in my soul, I am a Rachel. Okay, we are almost to the end of this book. We are potentially going to be the longest recording so far.
And honestly, I came into this being like, I got this. I'll make it tight. One episode. Boom. I'm a liar to myself and my wife.
You could have done that. I could not have. So they are ready to fucking go. They know where the Kandrona is. They're ready to go. This is a Rachel book. We are en route. So they break into the EGS tower. This scene is so goofy. They're at the tower. They get into their morphs. They say some shit to the guard. The guard is like, Andalites. And they're like, okay, cool. Thank God. We don't have to try to diplomacy through this. We can just beat the shit out of you. So Marco punches through the glass door to the guard. And he's obviously controller. And they knock him out. And they start moving.
Gorilla Marco.
Yeah, Gorilla Marco. That's important. That's important. Not just little tiny baby Marco, but punching through the glass. Then we get to what I call in my notes a certified elevator moment. Such a stupid way of phrasing that. But they get like a little really fucking funny interlude where they're in the freight elevator.
Just waiting.
They're all crammed in their giant ass animal morphs. Like, it's so funny. They're just chilling out. They're talking about Keanu Reeves movies.
So, seen any good movies lately, Jake asked. I want to go see that new Keanu Reeves movie, I said. I'm not sure which one that would have been at this particular juncture.
Yeah.
And then someone says, presumably, Jake, he's supposed to be cute, right? Like, duh. I said, I'm really curious, like, there's that how to unpack the he's supposed to be cute remark. I mean, like, I could see it from a lot of directions and like, whoa, okay.
So this moment is hilarious. I love it. I am not immune to an elevator-focused bit of horror. I mean, not horror. Also, yes, comedy. I think it's so funny. And then, of course, like, doors open and they are immediately accosted by 2 Hork-Bajir and 3 human controllers. And they're like, so? It's like, yeah, fine.
It's great. Watch out, Rachel, Cassie called. There's a door straight ahead of you. Nah, there's no door, I said. And I plowed my 800 pounds into a steel door that popped open like a lid of a jack-in-a-box.
So good. I love her so much. That's fine. They get through these people, and then they watch as the remaining Hork-Bajir are running off. Rachel throws one of the Hork-Bajir through a window, and nothing is said of this.
Good thing it's the middle of the night.
Yeah, good thing it's the middle of the night, but also, like, I'm guessing that somebody else in this tower before morning goes down and gets the body? Because otherwise, like, that would be confusing.
I mean, they're about to make an incident. Like,
they are about to make an incident.
So this, I mean, they don't even go into what the cover story is on this, but like what, you know, this is one of those classic Animorphs things where they do something crazy and you know in the news the next day there's going to be some kind of weird shit that didn't happen that's masking what actually did happen.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So they follow the remaining Hork-Bajir who are running off in a direction. And they're like, well, certainly they're going to go protect the Kandrono, so we should follow them. And in this new room, there's 8 Hork-Bajir. And they can maybe take one each, maybe. And there's 5 of them. Tobias isn't here because he a bird, so he outside. And there's 3 more Hork-Bajir than them. So Rachel is like, that's not good odds. However, I'm a bear, so I'm fighting anyway already. She also does not have great eyesight as a bear in this grizzly bear morph, which is, I don't think that I knew this about bears, that they just don't have great eyesight. It makes a lot of sense.
That's teeny tiny little dots amidst all that big beige fuzz.
That's so true. They do got little tiny eyes. So she can't really even see what's going on as she is just, again, creating carnage here.
A Tasmanian devil.
Yes, exactly. With the hole in the window where she's thrown this Hork-Bajir, not only has that successfully gotten the Hork-Bajir out of her fucking way, but it also makes an entrance for Tobias to fly in. So he flies in, he's fucking him up hawkily, and this kind of makes the combination of these two events kind of makes the situation turn. And the rest of there's 3 remaining Hork-Bajir, they escape, they flee. So at this point, the kids all decide, like, okay, we're exhausted and dying-ish. I think this is the point where, so they're like, let's all demorph because we are dying. Rachel is like really fucked up, but she's like, it's fine. And Jake is like, Rachel, look at your hand. And there is no hand to look at. It's gone.
Whole arm, actually.
Whole arm. The whole arm is gone. She's like, it's fine, I'm chill.
And she just goes, Rachel, Tobias said, your left arm. I stared blankly at my left paw. It wasn't there. It was a stump. Demorphing, I said. just very funny timing.
That's very good. Very good. So they, in this room, first off, Rachel looks around and she's like, ooh, yeesh. We did some damage here. Oops. And then they see a door. So they go into the door and there is a totally plain room. There's plain walls, plain floors. It's just like white and blank. One of the walls, with everything in this building on this side of the building, one of the walls is floor to ceiling windows, which is how she threw the Hork-Bajir out of the window. But this one, the windows are covered by curtains. And the only thing in this room is a huge pedestal. And at the top of the pedestal, there is a giant car-sized chrome thingy. It's like shaped kind of like a piece of rice. It's like an oblong with like 2 kind of pointed ends, like a grain of rice. And it's up there, and they're like, okay, that's very obviously the Kandrona. And they don't make much fanfare about this. They note that it's like warm and radiating. But there's not a lot of like, let's study this, let's observe it, because this is a Rachel book. So instead, she turns into an elephant, she picks it up in her trunk, and she throws that shit out the window too, and it gets crunched on the ground.
Yeah. Amazing. Perfect.
Amazing.
Good plan.
Yeah.
And I love everything about it. But this whole mission, my brain is screaming, cameras. These kids just don't live in the era of the surveillance state. They're doing whatever they want and not worrying about it.
The amount of times per book, I'm like, right, this is pre-Patriot Act. Right.
Yeah, they're just gonna like demorph. I mean, yeah, they're losing their arms, but like they're in a room with the thing that makes the Yerks go burr.
Yeah.
Like there's not cameras there? What the fuck?
Yeah. I'm so stressed about the next book after this book. Like, there's gonna have to be such fallout. And maybe there's not. Maybe everything is fine, but I don't trust that everything is fine literally ever with these books. So, at long last, we're at the final chapter of this one. And it's a classic Animorphs final chapter. Rachel is seeing her dad off. It's very sweet. She is not going with him. She has made her decision. She will come visit him. It's very, very nice. There is this like kind of cute exchange where he's saying like, come with me to the airport at least, like come see me off, I'll pay for you for a cab to go back. And she says like, sorry, no, I actually really gotta get back, I'm busy. And he's like, oh yeah, something super important with your friends. And she's like, yeah, saving the world pretty much. And he's like, ha ha ha, I bet you could do it if anybody could. And it's very sweet and it's very funny and I liked it a lot.
It's a wonderful, warm, delightful ending that ties everything up.
Yes.
And you even get a zoom out kind of moment. Taxi drives off. Rachel looks up in the sky. A lone hawk circles overhead. You coming, Rachel? Tobias called down. And yes, I was coming.
Yeah. It's so sweet. The endings are always so good. This was a really lovely one. This book is so satisfying. It was so good to chug through. The pacing was great. All of the character moments are great. It felt so real and it was so fucking crazy and so weird and introduced so much with such grace. This was such a good one. Should we get to our ranking of characters?
Let it come.
Okay. We're going to do just the main kids.
Yeah. We're
going to start from the bottom and we're going to go, I'll give mine, you give yours. Good?
Yes, sort of.
Okay.
But just do yours, because here's my caveat.
Okay.
I haven't read these books in so very long that I'm kind of being reintroduced, so you're going to have me back. And then by having two books, I will then be able to present a better idea of like, I'm like, yes, you know what? I feel good about this. I can really make this judgment call with two books under my shirt, like after all this time.
Oh no, I have to have you back on. What will I do? Good. I love it. This is an incredible plan. We will consider this your like clean slate control gut check list. And then we can compare later.
Okay.
Okay. My bottom is Cassie.
I think my bottom's Marco. Like he's a very strong character, like for a lot of reasons, but
he's a real love him or leave him kind of guy.
He's very necessary in the story. I love that he's there. And I don't really truly have a bias against any of these characters.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't have many strong memories of Marco, aside from him being that asshole the whole time.
Yeah. My next is Tobias. I actually kind of can't believe he's this low, but I really just love everyone so much.
Okay. There, I'm going to put Cassie.
Legit. My next is Jake.
My next is Tobias. And Cassie and Tobias, they're kind of swapping here. Like they could go either way, really. They both could use a little bit more.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah, I'm with you. My next is Axe. This is only my third book with him, and I love him. I think he is so fucking funny and so delightful. He has really risen in these ranks so fast. I'm so proud of him.
Hell yeah. My third is Jake.
Yeah.
He's a good boy. He's
boy.
a really good depiction of this archetype of like the reluctant leader without being too vanilla a guy.
Yeah.
Though he is still a little bit of a vanilla guy.
Yes. Completely agree. My next is Rachel, my girl. She's such a fucking mess. She is so down to kill everything. I love her. She's so complex. She's so interesting. I feel so understood by her. She is my number 2.
Cool. My number 2 is Axe.
Yeah.
Because he likes cinnamon buns. He's just, even during like one of the bleakest chapters in this book, he was still like, the Ellimist didn't even mention taste. What about taste? What about chocolate and cinnamon buns?
He fucking gets it.
Yeah, he's super funny. I mean, like he is both a good character and also super funny by accident, not like Marco, who is just just doing his best.
Yeah. Just doing bits. But that being said, my number one is Marco. I love my boy. I love a Mercutio, and that is what he is.
He is that. He is that. And therefore, my number one is Rachel, who I find highly relatable.
Yeah!
Rachel did nothing wrong. I don't think she did anything wrong.
Yeah. I think that you're the first
everybody.
person who had Rachel in the top spot so far on the show. And you're right.
She gets it.
She gets it. She gets it. Do you have any leading questions for me, predictions that you'd like me to make, anything like that?
I mean, you got to talk about what the hell you think the Ellimist is doing at this juncture, right? Like, that's the big one. Let's focus. Let's all eyes on you. Predict the Ellimist right now. Yeah. So I think that the Ellimist is one representative of like several of these entities. I'm guessing that probably what's going on here is that these entities sort of have like districts that they look over or like things that they're paying attention to. I guess they could all simultaneously be paying attention to everything simultaneously. I don't think that the Ellimist is the only of his kind. I think that there are many of them. I feel like we've gotten that pretty much in text, but I do feel like they are very closely communicating very often. I am sure that they have some political agreement with the Yeerks. I'm sure that they do, because why else would they not have stopped this? And I don't think it's as simple as, well, the Yeerks are living creatures too. I don't think that it's even close to that simple. And I do think there is probably a very specific moment in time where the Ellimists had, whether this was positioned to them or this was them doing something like this, the Ellimists had a moment where they could have tipped things in favor of the Andalites and the Yeerks, and they didn't. And I think that the Andalites are aware of that, and I think that is part of why the Ellimists are almost like a boogeyman to Axe, right? They're like almost mythological. They are trickster gods. They are something to be feared and mistrusted no matter what. So I'm certain there is something in history where, say, for instance, the Andalites got this exact same choice. And what we are seeing is the remnants of their civilization having built themselves up to fight back at these Yeerks, or some such. There was some decision that was given where it seemed like the Andalites were going to be protected in some way by the Ellimists, but they chose quote-unquote wrong, and it fucked them. And this is all, again, tying into these political arrangements with the Yeerks, with, I'm sure, other galactic forces and populations, where they are not allowed to interfere in anything. And I do think that is more like contemporary, I want to say. Like, I think that probably as like a species, I suppose, the Ellimists have some internal principle that they can't interfere with things directly, right? But I'm sure that they also have like really in-depth political discussions about what that means, because that on its own is not enforceable without parameters, right? So I'm sure there's been like a lot of discussion there within the Ellimist, and potentially with something that is even a higher power than the Ellimist. That being said, I think that these very current discussions on how they can or cannot interfere with the plan of the Yeerks specifically is much more contemporary and probably much more in conversation with the Yeerks and other galactic bodies than just some sort of like borderline holy edict that they can't interfere. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah. Are you ready for our final segment?
My body is ready.
That's perfect, because it's time for Now for Morphs. If you were going to morph into an animal right now, what would it be?
Well, you now know that it's possible to blend DNA, so I'd like to apply the Flawless maneuver, please, with several consenting humans who were assigned female at birth, and possibly also my feline daughter, Sorsha, to create an invaginated body for myself, an experiment with aesthetics and experiential possibilities of combining different sorts of DNA to make a new animal for me.
A cat girl.
Yeah, well, I didn't, I don't just have this name by accident, so.
That's perfect. You've blown my mind here. It did not occur to me, and has seemingly not occurred to anyone, that a different human person is an option.
Yeah.
Now hold up. That's genius. I'm like reeling. I have to think about this now. I think you've won now, Remorphs, for whatever it's worth.
Well, I'm very much like with Cassie in that like humans are animals too.
Yeah.
And like you may notice that with very rare exception, I don't actually use the word animal.
Yeah.
I say like other special or things like that, because I think that a lot of the problems that we have on this planet are a direct result from viewing other species as other in terms of like I say we, I mean like Western civilization specifically. Right. The idea that humanity has some kind of special dominion or like is in any way like significant or important. Obviously, we have a very particular set of skills and powers on this planet, but we also, as a species, routinely dismiss the communications of other species, and we always celebrate science. And they're like, "Hey, turns out other species have cognition. Wow."
Yeah. Turns out other species use tools.
Duh. I mean, I suppose we always need empirical facts to be able to move on it with the rigidity that our society demands, but no, like... Right.
There's a difference between empirical fact and, like, assumptions that we've been making for a long time and haven't looked hard enough, you know?
Yeah. We're all on this planet together. We all exist, like, symbiotically with each other on this planet because that's how we became the living, breathing creatures we are today.
Yeah.
So, the disharmony that the human species culturally has created for itself, like, away from the rest of the living world, like the human veil, the human idea that we carry with us, that we're indoctrinated with from birth, that we are somehow important in that way, like that everything has dominion to us, like unto us, the way that like, the Judeo-Christian Bible says like, oh yes, this world was created for your species. Fuck that. No, it wasn't. Like we're all here.
Right.
And if we didn't have a language that was continuing to enforce the barriers between our species, I think we would culturally have a different outlook on things.
Well said. I completely agree. Wow. Yes. Now.
So,
Yeah.
Now I'm going to combine some DNA and just like peace out with from humanity. I don't know. I like my body very much, actually. But, that's not how morphing works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I feel you. I also like my body. However, all of that being said, I think that my choice today would be an ocelot.
Ooh, yes. Good one.
Love ocelots. When I was a little kid and we had an assignment that was like pick an endangered species to do a little report on. It was like one of our first like reports that we did in school growing up. I chose the ocelot because I loved them. I thought that they were the perfect mix of cute and deadly, and they are. And also they have been like nurtured as a species back a lot recently, which I'm very happy about, because when I wrote that report, there was like less than 100 ocelots alive, like in the wild, which was devastating to read as a child. So inspired by like Rachel and the bear, and also Rachel when she was Fluffer McKitty and she had that like confidence and aloofness. Yes. I would love the heightened senses of an ocelot and like being able to jump around and run and feel powerful, but not be like huge and menacing like a lion or something. Like it would just be, I could be stealthy, like I could creep around. And also, they're so cute. That is my pick, this one.
Exquisite choice, Will.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Kat, it has been so wonderful having you here. Of course, I will have to have you back so we can compare your rankings and make sure that they're good.
I'm hyped for it. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thank you. Never Morphed is hosted, edited, and produced by Will Williams. Our theme music is The Chase by Joey Hendricks. Our title is by Eddie Feely, and this podcast would not exist without Mike Schubert's podcast, Potterless and the Newest Olympian. You can find his works at shub.es, that's shub.es. Never Morphed is a proud member of Hug House Productions. You can find more at hughouse.productions and follow us on Tumblr at Nevermorphed. Get morphin'! On March 27th, 2024, Elon Musk was deposed in a libel lawsuit filed by Ben Brody. Musk's lawyer, Alex Spiro, tried to retroactively mark the deposition as confidential, but it wasn't.
Of course I can ask him, do you think you committed actual malice? Do you think you were reckless? Of course I can ask those questions.
The deposition is a new Hug House podcast reenactment of the entire deposition, word by word, in full, taken very seriously.
Things that he did wrong.
But that's the point. That's not what you're allowed
Until he really just can't anymore?
Not what you're allowed to do in the deposition. You can't just get him talking.
The deposition drops on the 4th of July, 2024, with 4 weekly episodes. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice or find us at hughouse.productions today.